And good evening, Hoops HD fans. Welcome to another Championship Week video notebook here on the biggest day in terms of numbers of games of Championship Week. What an incredible day of action. Tons of games today. We've got a lot to get to. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. With me, David Griggs, who's been hard at work setting up an interview for us for tonight. David, how'd that
Well,
go?
it may not happen. I don't know. I'm getting the idea. Something must have gone wrong. They may not want to talk to me, but either tonight or tomorrow, this is kind of crazy. We're actually going to have Scott Barnes, the selection committee chairman, on the show.
Yes.
So,
Wow. So you did get him. You're able to call him.
he will be here. And again, sometimes the puppet has connections. We're trying to reach him tonight. As you would imagine, we're going to show you what our mock committee did tonight. It's just a really busy process. They generally wrap up about right now, and we got off to kind of a late start. We were waiting on him, but because it got so late, I guess they just kind of went into. Should we even be saying this on the? Well, anyway, they just kind of went overtime, and I think they're just kind of tired, and he may not make it on the night, but we should get him on tomorrow, if not tonight.
Oh, well, that's great. Well, so everyone tune in. If he doesn't call in, but before the end of the show tonight, tune in tomorrow. Huge, exciting interview we've got coming up. We also want to announce a new service, David. I know me personally, having to go to work and having all these games today. Same thing tomorrow. Next week with the first round of the NCAA tournament, or the round of 64 of the NCAA tournament. Trying to get off of work there. Can you tell us about the new service we're offering?
Yeah, it's just one of the unfortunate things. With especially the tournaments being in the quarterfinals and the first and second round sites, it's just the reality is a lot of the games are played during the work day. And for some people, they're just not able to watch the game. So what we have decided to do is if your place of employment or your employer is not letting you watch the games, we will help you. You can just email us his phone number, his contact information. I will call your employer, and we will get it straightened out so you are able to watch the games. I will set them straight.
Okay,
I will do this. I will campaign.
What's the email address people should
just david.griggs@hoopshd.com.
All right, so
yes.
Everybody, email david.griggs@hoopshd.com if you're having any problems with your employer. David will set everything straight.
Nothing.
Yeah. So you can watch the games.
You will be able to watch all the games, and this is just a free service all through March that we're doing for our fans.
I mean, this shows how much we appreciate our fans and everyone out there. This is just a wonderful service. I may be calling you myself tomorrow if I have any trouble.
Okay, yeah, and it works. Boss, I mean, it works. Like we're able to get people off work.
All right. On that note, David, we want to move right into all the action today. We're going to start with some of the more major conferences, but we're going to go through everything that happened and preview everything that's going on tomorrow as well. Let's start. I think we got up here on my screen in the ACC today, where it was quarterfinal day. First two quarterfinals, Virginia knocked off Florida State. North Carolina over Louisville in what was actually a pretty close game the whole way.
Yeah, it really was. It kind of seesawed back and forth. There was another game that was not close even part of the way. NC State Duke game.
Yeah, the bottom half of the bracket here, Duke pounded NC State. I was looking forward to a good game there. I was very disappointed.
Yeah, as was
Miami was getting pounded in the first half by Notre Dame, came storming back in the second half now.
Actually got a lead, I think, didn't they? Or did they come all the way back and get a lead or not? I don't.
I believe they came back real close here, but then in the end Notre Dame was able to pull them away, leaving us with the top four seeds in the I guess four of the top five seeds in the semifinals: Duke versus Notre Dame. Virginia versus North Carolina, a pair of great semifinals. It should be a pair of fun games tomorrow night. Not that they're going to have much impact on the tournament itself.
Yeah, but no, North Carolina and Virginia. And again, we're on pace for Can Duke and North Carolina meet in the finals again? Probably not. It's probably going to be Duke and Virginia. But either way, like, what a showcase game that'll be. And there will be some stakes to that because the East region is kind of up for grabs, and that would be who goes to the East and who goes to the South is probably that Duke-Virginia game.
It very well could be. The other big story coming out tonight is with Miami's loss, squarely putting them back on the bubble. If they do make the field, I feel like they're probably on their way to Dayton. And it depends on what's going to happen with some of the other conferences, whether any bids are stolen here over the next couple of days as well.
Yeah.
Uh, Over in the American Conference, it was first round day today. Best game of the three was the first one, East Carolina and Central Florida. East Carolina pulling out a 1-point victory.
Yeah, overtime game there.
Overtime victory, yes.
Yeah, that one was exciting. I don't think it really means much because I think we're just going to see SMU throttle it. SMU's interesting. There's a lot of dissension on our committee about them. You and I like them, I think. There are others that do not. We're going to get to that later. I don't like them as a protected seed like them, but I think their profile's fairly decent, and I think their team is better. I like them top. I think they're a top 25 team. They're in the rankings, and they should be.
Yeah, and we showed you our initial results of the initial ballot last night, and they did make the field on their first ballot.
Right.
So the other games tonight, Houston got by Tulane, and UConn throttled South Florida in that big rivalry game down there.
Yeah, this UConn, I was kind of surprised. This UConn South Florida rivalry has just really gotten hot. But, wow. What is it? I think a mere 1,100 miles separate the two or something like that. It's wild.
Well, that makes them two of the closest teams in the American Athletic Conference also, so...
Right. Sets up some intriguing, as we look at the quarters here, with the exception of SMU, East Carolina. Temple, Memphis. Temple kind of bubbly. They need to, losing to non-tournament teams on neutral floors is not a good way to stay on the bubble. And we've got Cincinnati, Connecticut, basically in UConn's backyard.
Yeah, that's the game I'm most looking forward to in this conference tomorrow. I think that should be a really good one. And I think we're going to be dispatching our Lee Del Vecchio to the game, and we may even be able to try to get a video report from him at some point during the day tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for.
We'll see if that works out or not. But let's move on to the Atlantic 10, which today was also second round day in the Atlantic 10, heading into the quarterfinals of this huge tournament. We'll start with it up top here. LaSalle and UMass was one of the better games of the day, actually, up there at the top.
Yeah, they kind of went back and forth, and again, two teams kind of going in different directions. You got the sense that LaSalle should have been better than what they were. They had a lot of close losses, and then UMass, but they were trending up. UMass started off pretty good. They actually started to make a little bit of noise, but then towards the end of the year, they just kind of collapsed. So, again, LaSalle Davidson tomorrow. Does LaSalle have a chance, the way they've been playing?
I've never been sold on this Davidson team. I've been very outspoken that I'm not sold on them, even though I believe they will be in the NCAA tournament at this point, even if they lose this game. So I think LaSalle does have a chance. Obviously, we've got VCU actually struggled with Fordham tonight. Was able to pull it out. This is a huge rivalry here, and this should be a really, really fun game tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, the first two were fun. I think Richmond does it again, honestly. Fordham had a lead very late in that game. When you say they struggled, they sweated. VCU did. The Bonnies, no trouble with Joe's.
Actually, St. Joe's was up at the half here. The Bonnies just came out in the second half and blew them out of the water.
Okay, okay, so they did. And GW, no trouble with Duquesne. George Washington, Rhode Island, two teams that used to be on the bubble, but neither are anymore. Really, the parity in this league, I realize Davidson probably, they finished first and they definitely earned it, and Dayton certainly earned their spot, but you get the sense every single lower-seeded team, and by lower I mean more poorly seeded, whatever, worse, has a chance to win tomorrow.
I agree with you there, and one of the really interesting things, look at the bottom of this bracket here. This is a conference tournament whose championship game won't be until Sunday, and unless Dayton comes out of the bottom of the bracket, we will have a potential bid stealer in the championship game here.
Yes.
So that's something to keep an eye on if Dayton loses either to the Bonnies or in the semifinals on Saturday to the GW Rhode Island winner. Moving right on along here, in the Big 12 today, it was quarterfinal day. starting off with that Kansas TCU game, which was way closer than we thought it would be the entire way.
Yeah, TCU is right in there, and I don't read too much into that, really. There's something about the quarterfinals for teams that know they're in the tournament, know that they're protected seeds, and really, I mean, when you finish first in the league, it's just kind of hard to get mentally up for a game like this. And the team they're playing, their season is over if they don't win. So you do see a lot of games like this in the quarterfinals. I think there's just something about the quarterfinal round for teams that are protected seeds. Now, they get out of the quarters and they get to the semis, suddenly you're one game away from the conference championship. I think it changes your mentality entirely. But Kansas, if this were a regular season game or a semifinal game, I just think the result is much more decisive.
Right. What we also had, we had Baylor getting by West Virginia, Oklahoma really taking care of Oklahoma State in what I thought would be a really good game. It really didn't turn out to be nearly the game that we were looking for. And then Texas had a nice lead all the way on Iowa State. And actually, if you can see over there on the right-hand side of the screen where it has the headlines, right there, Iowa State closes with 12-0 run, stuns Texas, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, they had a 10-point lead late into the game. It was a
67-57 lead, and next thing they knew, it was 69-67. Iowa State wins the game. Complete collapse by the Longhorns. We still think they're probably going to make the field at the end of the day, but this would have locked them in if they'd pulled out this game.
Yeah, I agree. It would have locked them in. They'd probably already be in had they won the game.
And what a pair of semifinals tomorrow. Kansas, Baylor, Oklahoma, Iowa State. We mentioned that this is probably 4 better teams than you'll see in a regional final in the NCAA tournament.
Probably so, because, again, we have what appears to be a 2-seed, a 3-seed, a 3-seed, and a 2-seed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is...
Exactly. I mean, best case scenario in a regional final, you have a 1-seed, 2-seed, 3-seed, and 4-seed. This is better than that even. So,
right, yeah.
A pair of great semifinals tomorrow, leading into no matter what the matchup is, should be a really good championship game coming up on Saturday here.
Right.
Over in the Big East, it was quarterfinal day as well. Villanova absolutely pounded Marquette. And then Providence came out and did the same thing to St. John's, and another shocker just based on the way they dominated this game.
The way they dominated and where they were, and really the way the Johnnies had been playing down the stretch sans the second half of the Villanova game, this was really surprising. I don't know. Steve Lavin, the great newspaper quote, I'm just not a good conference tournament coach. I'm not going to argue with him.
Well, isn't that the goal, to win tournaments, specifically winning in the NCAA tournament? I don't know that I necessarily want a coach that can't win tournament games if I think I have a team that is competitive. But yeah, maybe he was slightly misquoted there.
So the afternoon session, really unexciting. But how about this evening session? Wow.
First of all, Creighton really had a shot against Georgetown to pull off the upset. It took a late run by the Hoyas to pull out that game. And then we had overtime with Xavier and Butler, and Xavier getting the absolutely must-need win. Now, they probably would have still snuck into the field if they'd lost this game. I think that they can punch their tickets at this point.
I think so, and I wouldn't be surprised. We're going to get to this, what our mock committee is doing here towards the end, I think. But I wouldn't be surprised if Xavier had already been voted in. We still can't seem to raise Scott Barnes. It might have to be till tomorrow, unfortunately, but that would be a question we could ask him, who's in and who isn't, right here on Hoops HD. So, I mean, we're trying to make that happen here.
Again, a pair of semifinals here tomorrow, Villanova, Providence, Georgetown, Xavier. Both look like a couple of pretty interesting games. I expect Villanova and Georgetown to win, but you just don't know with these 4 teams.
Right. Yeah, you really don't. Xavier pounded, who was it, like Georgetown twice this year, but again, it's a bad matchup for Georgetown. It wouldn't shock me if Xavier won again, but again, you just don't really know. I think it's going to be Nova. I think it's going to be Nova and Xavier. I really think that's who it's going to be down the stretch.
Let's keep going right down here in order. We'll switch over to a smaller conference now in the Big Sky, which today was quarterfinal day as well. Um, we started off with we actually had all four games here were close and competitive the whole way. Even though we ended up having all the top four seeds all win, Montana needed overtime to beat their big rival Weber State there. Eastern Washington held off a tough Idaho team, and Sacramento State had struggled with Portland State but snuck out that win there as well.
Yeah.
This sets up a pair of semifinals tomorrow: Montana, Northern Arizona, Eastern Washington, Sacramento State. Those are the two teams that really were the key story this year. We thought at one point that this would be your championship game. Instead, it's a semifinal.
Right, it really is. And again, like you mentioned, Montana having to sweat that one out. Maybe that was just some quarterfinal itis, I don't know. But I look for them to handle Northern Arizona tomorrow. I think they get the win. And Eastern Washington, Sacramento State, that's going to be a great game.
Yeah, that will be a fun one. Big Ten Conference today. It was second round day for second round games. The top four seeds still not in action. We'll start up top there. And one of the shocking scores from the early afternoon today was Illinois absolutely getting trounced by Michigan.
Yeah.
And if that wasn't a big enough of a surprise, Iowa then turns around and loses to Penn State. And here come the Nittany Lions, David.
Yeah, I mean, again, as they were joking, could we see a Penn State Michigan semifinal?
Well, Penn State, probably of the four teams that got by, is the one I'd most want to play. If I could choose a team, would be Purdue. I think they're the most beatable, more so than Maryland, Michigan State, or Wisconsin. So this Penn State story could become huge tomorrow if they win again.
Yeah, no, and it's a winnable game. That's what's so funny.
I just lost the screen there for a second. Let me just give you 1 second here. We'll pull it back up. But the other games in the bottom half of the bracket today, we saw Indiana get by Northwestern. Ohio State had a tough game with Minnesota, but pulled it out.
Yeah, they did. No trouble for Indiana. But, yeah, Ohio State, it really was tough. Like Minnesota, it looked like Ohio State was going to pull away, and Minnesota just kept coming back and kept coming back. Again, nice win for the Buckeyes into the quarters. They're probably in the field regardless, but they don't have a lot of really good things on their resume, especially away from home. So to get a notable win against what's probably another tournament team on a neutral site would help them out a lot.
Right, and that's the game against Michigan State, which probably looks like on paper at least the best game of the most evenly matched game of these four quarterfinals tomorrow. So it's one I'm definitely going to be taking a look at.
Yeah.
It was also quarterfinal day in the Big West Conference today, moving right along here in the alphabetical order, where UC Davis had a big struggle from Reggie Theus's Cal State Northridge Matadors. Really thought they were going down there for a while, but they were able to pull out the victory.
Yeah, and this was, I thought it was over. I really did. Because they fell behind, and it's like, oh my God, it's happening again in the Big West. I forget who said it, because last year this bracket completely fell apart, and but they survived. And what's crazy, the 8 and the 7 seeds the last year have really competed in this tournament. You wonder why they don't do that during the year.
We also do want to give a shout out here to Hawaii, who beat Long Beach State. This was Hawaii's first ever Big West tournament victory this year. They've been in the conference for a few years now, had not gotten past the quarterfinals until this year. They get UC Davis tomorrow, and I think UC Davis better be ready, play a lot better than they did today if they want to get by this Hawaii team. They've been a tough team all season, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
For the job Benji Taylor did coming in there in really bad circumstances, last minute taking over this program, has done a great job, I think.
Yeah, he has, and we've mentioned that before, although not to the extent that it probably deserves. He walked into a really bad spot. So 2 really good storylines tomorrow, Hawaii, UC Davis. I still have a soft spot for UC Davis, but great job for Hawaii this year under crazy circumstances.
Today was quarterfinal day in Conference USA. Tim Floyd did not get ejected, as far as I know today. Right?
Yeah, he did not, and I figured he would. He normally does. He did not get ejected today, though. Maybe tomorrow.
All right. Tomorrow he gets to go up against Middle Tennessee, who I think ended any outside shot that Old Dominion had at an at-large bid, beating them for the second time this season. Just a
Yeah.
really, I mean, once Old Dominion cutting into conference play had looked so good and just really fell apart in Conference USA this year.
They really did. It was one of the more disappointing teams, at least from the standpoint of how good they looked in November and December, and then just getting in the conference play with nothing against Conference USA, but we have maybe 3 NIT caliber teams in this conference, including them, and they lost so many games.
The other half of the bracket, UAB had to pull out a huge, exciting victory over Western Kentucky in a game between two programs that were both heading in the wrong direction. So
Yeah.
somebody had to win.
Yeah, this was an exciting game. Attendance has been pathetic for this tournament, but this game had at least a lower bowl full. It was in Birmingham. Their fans were there. Western Kentucky fans really traveled well. And the two really went back and forth the whole game. It was a nice win for UAB. They get a little momentum going tomorrow. They played Louisiana Tech, who beat Rice, but it was a struggle, way more of a struggle than you would think it would normally be. And the last time these two met in Birmingham, UAB won by 20. Now, granted, that was at their home arena. They're in their home city, but they're not in the home arena. And although that's advantageous to UAB, it's not nearly as advantageous as if they were playing on their home court. Between what happened the last time these two met and what happened the night with La Tech, should La Tech be concerned?
I think La Tech should be very concerned. I picked UTEP as my team to win this conference tournament.
Yeah.
I thought that La Tech would be in the finals. After what I saw today, I think UAB may be in the finals, and if that happens, I'd expect them to be packed in there on Saturday for the championship game.
Yeah, they would be. They're expecting a bigger crowd tomorrow. It's just one session, but it would be exciting for UAB. They got some momentum going. It's been kind of a rough year for UAB, I think.
That's a bit of an understatement. Yeah.
So, but again, Louisiana Tech grossly inconsistent all year. There have been times they've looked absolutely amazing, and times they looked awful. You just don't know who's going to show up. I still think that when they're good, they're playing up to their ability. They're better than anyone else in this league, but they don't always do it. So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Over in the Mid-American Conference, today was quarterfinal day in this ladder format tournament, meaning there was 2 quarterfinal games. Toledo got by Eastern Michigan. It was probably not even as close as the final score. They kind of cruised in that game. Then we had a great one in one of the top rivalries in the conference between Akron and Kent State, though.
Yeah, it seesawed back and forth. Kent had the better year. Akron, it was an Akron-Kent game. That's all I got to say. And Kent had a shot to win at the end. They actually hit a three-pointer, but they didn't get the shot away in time. For a split second, I guess you saw it. Kent, yes. Their fans, they thought they'd won a game. They thought they'd done it again because if you recall, they won in spectacular fashion to end the regular season against Akron, and it was this court-storming affair. So again, he who lasts loudest, and Akron moves on.
Right, and that sets up a pair of semifinals tomorrow: Central Michigan, Toledo, Akron, Buffalo. I think it's anybody's game here on out. I mean, I did go with Buffalo as my pick. I'll stick with them for that reason, but any of these 4 teams could win this conference tournament at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And have we seen the game of the turn? Oh, God. Like, this rivalry is so good, this Akron-Kent rivalry. Because this is your typical Akron-Kent game, the kind of one we saw tonight. So, man.
Today was also the end of the quarterfinals in the MEAC. We'd already had North Carolina Central and Norfolk State advance yesterday. Today, Delaware State got by Howard, and Hampton beat Maryland Eastern Shore. Hampton was actually up pretty big on Maryland Eastern Shore most of the way. Eastern Shore came all the way back, had a couple chances to tie, just couldn't quite do it, and Hampton pulled it out. Kind of a disappointing end to the season for Bobby Collins' team there, unless the CIT NIT comes calling for them, which they
Yeah,
might.
it kind of was. It was kind of surprising that they were having as much trouble as they were. Again, nothing against Hampton. It's just I expected Eastern Shore to kind of play a little better than what they did, but
Mhm.
still, we got the semifinal set. Good season for Eastern Shore. They've really turned it around, and I think there's happy days ahead for them.
I'm just going to say this right now, David. I think North Carolina Central better be very careful with this Delaware State team tomorrow. I've seen them play a few games this year. They've always, I think every single game I've watched them play, they actually ended up winning. So maybe I've seen the better part of their
Right.
team,
Yeah.
but I mean, they just better be careful tomorrow with this team. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Um, let's move on to the Mountain West Conference, where today was quarterfinal day as well. Began with Boise State took care of Air Force fairly easily. And then in a game that was surprisingly high scoring for a Wyoming game, it was a 67-65 game there.
Yeah, this Wyoming Utah State game. Utah State had a rough year, but they had a pretty strong finish, and this one was exciting. It went back and forth, and you had the sense that either one of these teams was capable of beating Boise in the next game. Wyoming gets it done, and is this the end of? Is this Stu Morrill's last game, or are
Uh,
they going to get a postseason invite? It's
I
not going
don't
to be
think
the NIT.
it's not going to be the NIT. I mean, the CBI may be interested in them, may not be interested in them. They may not be interested in playing. They may just say, "Hey, listen, let's call it quits here at this point." A lot of programs have no interest in playing if they're not in the NCAA or NIT. So
Right. Yeah.
we'll see. But that may have very well been Stu Morrill's last game, in which case, great career. It's a shame to lose him, and Utah State's going to be looking for a new head coach, which is something else we wanted to talk to Scott Barnes about if we can get
Yes.
him on here.
Yes, we still can't write. I just think the committee went too late tonight, and we wanted to be on a little earlier. He's probably just tired, but he will be back. We promise he'll be here tomorrow if we can't
Okay.
get him on tonight. Yeah.
Um, Over in the Pac-12 today was quarterfinal day as well. Arizona struggled a little bit early with Cal, but then eventually was able to take care of them.
Yes, if you bought tickets to the Pac-12 today, ask for your money back.
Yeah, we really in the end had 4 blowouts here.
Yeah.
UCLA pounded USC. That was no surprise. Colorado hung tough with Oregon a little bit in the first half. They were my pick here as a surprise team. I ended up being wrong, and then Utah took care of Stanford in the nightcap. So we've got Arizona, UCLA, Oregon, Utah tomorrow. The big one here is UCLA. They can pull off this win. They are a serious threat to be in the field. I think if they lose this game, they're going to be really sweating things out and probably end up on the outside again.
I personally don't like UCLA at all. They have just 2 wins away or 2 true road wins. Now, again, they get this one. It changes the entire complexion of their profile, but without it, I mean, we're going to look at the board here in a second. I just don't think they're there.
And the other half there, Oregon, we think they're fairly safely in. We think even if they lose this game, they should still get a bid. Obviously, getting this win tomorrow would cement that if there is any reason why the committee might leave them out. The profile's not that strong across the board, but just compared to some of the other profiles out there, I think they're better right now.
Okay.
Let's move over to the SEC next, which today was second round day. Still the top 4 seeds not yet in action. And we had, Florida took care of Alabama, setting up a Kentucky-Florida quarterfinal. The number 1 seed against the number 8 seed. The other 3 seeds all have lower-seeded teams they're going up against. 3 upsets in the other 3 games today. Crazy bracket so far in the SEC.
Right. One of the talking points here is Texas A&M, who I think we had outside of our bubble. I don't see the loss to Auburn moving them inside of it.
No, I think Texas A&M can book their tickets to the NIT at this point. Although, would I be completely shocked if they somehow got in? No, but I think it would be I'd be fairly shocked there. Auburn now gets LSU next as Bruce Pearl tries to continue his magical run through the SEC tournament.
Right, and they beat LSU during the year, I think. So it's not too crazy. Now, after that, I think the party's over.
Right.
But
On
Really,
the
the Tennessee Vanderbilt game was seesawed back and forth. That was a fun one.
as was the South Carolina Ole Miss game, that came right down to the wire.
Oh,
Despite the fact,
crazy! Yeah.
yeah, just a crazy finish here. South Carolina does get the win, gets the matchup with Georgia. Georgia, not a team that's solidly in the field yet either. They really need to beat South Carolina tomorrow. And Ole Miss, are they on their way to the NIT now?
I don't think so, just because of how weak the bubble is, and that Ole Miss does have a lot of good things on their profile. I mean, they're close to the bubble, but I think they're inside of it. What's interesting, I think Georgia could have withstood a loss to Ole Miss. I don't know if they can to South Carolina, though.
I don't necessarily agree with you about Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is going to be one of those teams really sweating it out on Sunday, and I would not be shocked to see their name not called here.
Okay.
They're coming off a couple of bad losses here right to end the season. They have the couple of bad losses early in the season as well. The Charleston Southern loss.
Yeah, they really tanked it down. Like the bookends of the season, the beginning and the end were awful. The middle was pretty good, though. You got to admit, it was
Yeah, no, it was a very good middle, but that might not be enough. Obviously, the other two games tomorrow, Arkansas, Tennessee. We expect Arkansas to win that game, and Kentucky, Florida. You don't see the upset there, do you?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. Moving on today, we also had quarterfinal round day in the Southland. Again, another ladder format, so the top two teams not in action. Northwestern State got by McNeese State fairly easily. Corpus Christi got a battle from New Orleans, though.
They really did. I mean, for a while, I thought New Orleans was going to do it, and that would have been a fun story if they would have been able to get themselves into the semis. Wow. But anyway, Corpus Christi holds on. The chalk, has gotten through, and we'll see. Like I think we're shaping up for a 1v2 SFA versus Sam Houston.
Yeah, but that Sam Houston Corpus Christi game is the game I'm looking at tomorrow as the potential upset. Corpus Christi did beat Sam Houston at home during the regular season and beat SFA at home as well. So
yeah,
they're a dangerous team there at least. It was also quarterfinal round day in the SWAC today. The third and the fourth quarterfinals. In the early game, Southern took care of Alabama A&M by 4 points, setting up an Alabama State Southern semifinal. With both those teams being ineligible, we have a championship game tomorrow, 9:30, between Texas Southern and Prairie View. The winner, regardless of what happens in the SWAC title game, will be getting the automatic bid.
Yeah, and that's ridiculous. There's just nothing else to be said about that. That's absurd.
Yeah, at times I say I've been in favor of the idea of letting these ineligible teams participate. I was definitely in favor with Northern Kentucky, but now that's actually happened, and we're going to have this situation.
Here's the thing, Chad. I favored it. I liked it with Northern Kentucky a little better because they're ineligible due to them being a transitional team. Southern and Alabama State are ineligible because they have knuckleheads running the show.
That is a good point. On the other hand, the SWAC's position is, hey, we may not even have enough teams for a tournament if we didn't let our ineligible teams play.
What a confidence-expiring state. Oh, boy.
And also, after our big news yesterday that was in the newspapers and everything about the SWAC having streaming, they decided to pull the plug on it today for some reason. So if you'd wanted to watch these games, you couldn't. I think they might put the streaming back on tomorrow. I hope they do because that is a championship game in the nightcap, but you may have to be there in Houston if you want to watch the game.
Which, again, is absurd. Oh, God, everything is wrong with the SWAC. Everything, not just the tournament. I mean, from the APR bans to everything that's going on here, they've got issues.
Let me throw this out there. Should this conference actually possibly consider just dropping down to Division II?
It's a good question. I would like to see them. No, I think they should consider getting their crap together.
Okay, I agree with you there. I'd hate to see that happen. especially with a conference full of HBCUs. But
With
we
with athletic traditions, at least on the football side, and really, if you know your basketball history, on the basketball side, they were on the. Why is it so bad? I don't understand it. But
Well,
anyway,
odds are the number one team in the conference will get the auto bid. Texas Southern will have Mike Davis back in the NCAA tournament at least, so
yeah.
there'll be a storyline there. In the Sun Belt today, this is another conference that uses a ladder format. Uh, this was the first round games actually, because this conference doesn't end until Sunday. Uh, Texas State takes care of Texas Arlington. South Alabama pulls out a close one over Arkansas Little Rock.
Yeah, both these games were pretty good. The one thing that was awful about this tournament was the court it was played on. It was a ridiculous, like paint by number set looking court.
They played there last year also. I remember from last season. It's yeah, this is down in New Orleans where they're playing at. Yeah, I agree with you. We've got a couple quarterfinals tomorrow. The top two seeds though, Georgia State and Georgia Southern, not in action. Louisiana Monroe, who was right there for the regular season title all season, is in action against South Alabama though.
Yeah, and this tournament should be pretty good once it gets down to the semis. We had two pretty good games today.
Finally, the only games remaining that were played today were in the Western Athletic Conference. Began with Cal State Bakersfield beating Utah Valley. Then your team, David, what happened?
Oh well, they hung tough. They had some issues with the officiating. But again, UMKC, my team from last year, a year late, getting it done into the semis. Oh, it's over. We can't. We need to start looking at teams that actually have a chance of at least winning one game in the conference tournament. I believe, like in assigned teams, last year we were 0 for 2. This year you and I were 0 for 3, so that's 0 for 5. And Zach was 1-1, so we're 1-6 overall, I think.
Yeah, we did not do very good.
Yeah.
Our semifinals tomorrow: New Mexico State against Cal State Bakersfield, UMKC against Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle, Chicago State. This was a fun game, and as weak as this league is, these are teams that have never really been very far. At least Chicago State's been far, but not in a conference that had an automatic bid since I think they were in the Mid-Con.
Right now, and the only team here other than New Mexico State in this entire conference that's ever been in the NCAA tournament before is New Mexico State. Besides New Mexico State, is Seattle. That was back when they used to be D1. They dropped down, and now they've returned to D1. They have not made it since their return. But if UMKC or Cal State Bakersfield both looking for their first ever bids this year.
Yeah, I didn't realize UMKC had never been.
UMKC's never been in an NCAA tournament before. They beat Seattle tomorrow. They're going to have a shot on Saturday.
Right.
With that is all the games. That also covers all the games for tomorrow. So next step we want to do is we want to pull back up our survival board here, show you where we were as of last night.
Okay.
We'll try to do that on your screen here, David, if we can.
Yes, I believe we can make that happen. Let's see if we got it here.
There we go. After last night's action, we were at 167 teams left. Can you fill us in on what all this means?
Yes, I mean, again, this is just the 167 teams left. We have your little legend here. And again, Scott Barnes, he has been looking at this all day with the committee, so they know who to vote in and who not. You see teams in bold here. Those are teams that are in the field. And how it works is the selection committee logs onto this site, and when they see a team in bold, they know that they have to take them. They have some leeway with the teams in italics. They need to debate them. Maybe they'll take them, maybe they won't. It's up to them. And then the teams that you just see in regular font, those are lose in your screwed teams. If those teams do not win their conference tournaments, they're out. So again, in scrolling down here, and then the other one was just teams that have already won their conference tournaments. They're bold and all caps. So again, it's a tool the selection committee uses because of this board right here. It's the reason Scott Barnes, they're really not supposed to do interviews during the selection process, but he agreed to come on because of this board. I wish he was here tonight, but we will get him tomorrow.
Okay. And why don't we refresh it and see what did happen as a result of the action tonight? So you hit the magic button up top there. We were at 167 heading into the day. Wow, big chunk comes off again. 121 teams left that have a shot at winning the national championship.
Yes, so you have made it to the final 121. Oh, God. It goes quick. I think we eliminated more teams in the last 2 days than we did in the previous week leading up to this.
Yeah, we were at, I believe we're at exactly 200 coming into day yesterday. So we've lost 80 teams almost 80 teams in the last 2 days.
Yeah.
We'll have another nice chunk coming off tomorrow as well. Then we'll be down to the championship game, most of the conferences, and in the end, we're not going to be down to exactly 68. We're going to have 14 in italics, so we're probably going to be around the 75, 76 mark at the most, I would say.
Yeah.
So something in that range. And that'll give the committee a little bit of leeway to make a choices of which team they want to take as their final team.
Right.
If we pull that down, David, the one other thing we wanted to discuss tonight is our Hoops HD committee, where we have been having our own committee meetings. What we want to do at the end of the night here, at the end of each of our podcasts, is now that we're in the meetings, is update everybody what happened, especially so the real committee can see what happened and they can know where they should be in the process.
Right, and they're using this as a reference point. Like, obviously, they are the committee. I mean, they're using our site and they're getting a lot of information out of it because the rules are, they can bring in anything necessary, and this being on the internet, it is available to them. Right. But this is, so again, this is more or less a guideline than a mandate, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would agree. It's a guideline. They do not have to follow this exactly, but we are helping them out here. Yes. If you recall from last night, we had shown you that we'd had 26 teams in as at-large bids from Arizona down through Wisconsin here. What happened tonight is we went ahead and we put in an additional 12 more teams. Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, Michigan State, NC State, LSU, Xavier, Oregon, Davidson, Ohio State, and Dayton. We are recommending to the actual committee that those 10 teams do deserve at-large bids to the field.
Yeah, this was not unanimous. Well, I think most of those were. I am not big on Indiana.
Right. Well, I was going to get to that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, what happened, though, during the day now, we found out that the only teams remaining in the Big 12, ACC, and Big East tournaments have already been put into the field here, so we know we will have at least 3 more spots opening up. We didn't fill all 3 of them tonight. We only filled 2 of them. They were Indiana and Purdue, ended up being those 2 teams. And again, like you said, not unanimous by any means at this point. We're getting down to the serious bubble talk at this.
Right. And, the teams that are still looking to get in, we could, I believe, have as many as 7 more spots open. Is that what you count?
That is correct. We could have as many as 7 more spots. I don't think we're going to get all 7. I think, maybe the American, maybe the Atlantic 10, somebody's going to steal a bid here. Yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get 6 more spots. Yeah.
Right. Again, the teams, you like some of these more than others. One of the teams I liked was immediately voted off, and the committee loved every second of it, voting off Iona.
Yeah, if you remember from last night, there was a lot more teams in the under consideration board. We did scrub that. Removed a lot of the conference regular season champions. A team that did remain down here at the bottom, Grambling State, officially the Centenary Award winner. Congratulations to Grambling.
Now, is this a rule? This is a guideline, but I think we need to visit, and it'll be a committee decision, making it a rule. The Centenary Award winner cannot be removed. They don't have to be put in, but they can never be taken off this board.
That is correct. Yeah, anybody that raises a vote to remove Grambling from this board will not only be voted down, but will probably be thrown off of the committee.
Right, yes.
And if we scroll back up here, these are the teams that remain under consideration. Georgia, Texas, and Temple are the 3 that got the most serious consideration in terms of the voting, but none of them have gotten in yet. A few other teams that we've noted, Boise State, I think it's probably a team that's on the verge of getting in. Miami, maybe. Ole Miss, who we just talked about, is another big maybe there. And Tulsa,
Right.
I think, is a team that we didn't really speak a lot about, but I think we'll probably be discussing a bunch tomorrow night.
Yeah, and again, in looking at this board, I personally like Boise. I know you're not nearly as big on them, but in addition, I like Boise, Georgia, and in that order. Texas is next. I'm not as big on Temple, but again, like we got to find possibly as many as 7. I don't think we're going to have trouble with 4 of them, but it gets pretty ugly after that for the final 3 spots. And it's a 68 team tournament. It probably shouldn't be, but it is, so somebody's got to go.
Yeah, and there are some teams on here on this list that I don't think really have any realistic shot. Um, Rhode Island, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Stephen F. Austin, if they don't win the Southland. Illinois, I think, is probably done after today as well. While we didn't get those teams removed because we had certain people that decided that they wanted to keep these teams on the board, I think at the end that we're probably only going to have about 8 teams fighting for the final 4 spots is what it looks like.
Yes, and Iona is not one of them.
No, Iona is not one of them. So on that note, David, anything else we want to hit on tonight?
I'm just disappointed that we couldn't get Scott Barnes tonight, but we will get him tomorrow.
Yes, we'll get him tomorrow. And again, don't forget, if you are having any problems with your boss telling you that you cannot watch a game, email, is it David.Griggs?
David.Griggs at hoopshd.edu. I will straighten out your boss.
.com, right?
Yeah, hoopshd.com.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. We are not an educational institute yet, but we're working on that, as well.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get our team certified for Division I at some point. But on that note, we're gonna wish everybody again a great evening, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow night.